Dobbs Ferry on July 6, 2023. We have a very long and agenda tonight for both the planning board meeting and the AHRB meeting items, which we also are responsible for. I would make a motion that we open the meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. The first item on our agenda, are we starting here?
Yes, 3 Chestnut Ridge Way.
First item on our agenda is 3 Chestnut Ridge Way, a AHRB resolution. Good evening.
Good evening, board members and Roxbury residents. Yes, my name is Heather McGowan, and I am the owner of 3 Chestnut Ridge Way. I purchased it in October of 2021, and it's a labor of love, but I'm here tonight with my contractor, who should be here as well, Vincent here, who should be on virtually. I have done a lot of work interior of the home, and my intent is to update the facade of the home. Currently, the facade is aluminum siding over shaker, if I'm not mistaken, and I would like to update it with stucco using EIFS.
I see that there's like an addition on the rear that has stucco now, is that correct? Okay, I'm looking at your photos. So what's the scope of your stuccoing? Are you gonna leave the brick?
I wasn't planning on it. I really was planning on hoping to make it uniform.
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Hi, Benny.
Hi. Good evening, board members.
I was hoping to make it uniform. I think the siding and the brick, the stucco, not appealing to my OCD. And so I thought, to have it uniform would be a little bit more aesthetic.
So it's gonna be 100% stucco. Got it, thank you.
Good.
Do we have any specs on that? Stucco? I noticed there's floor plans. I didn't see any elevation. The new, is that?
There is your renderings,
There are.
floor plans, but not. Vinny, do we have elevation?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
They're asking for elevation. I know we have renderings.
Yeah, that's we have all the pictures, all the rendering pictures of before and what it will propose to look like when it's done.
That's a rendering.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
That looks nice.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, you
Way
saw
down
them?
the
Okay.
document. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's their renderings.
Yes.
And just for my own edification, when EIFS was introduced, there were a lot of technical problems with it. I gather that was quite a while ago, decades. I gather those issues have been resolved.
Yes. It's the EAF system with the vapor barrier, 2-inch styrofoam insulation, then a fiberglass mesh that goes on top of the insulation. It's like a reinforced fiberglass mesh. Then a base coat goes on top of that, then a primer coat, and then the finish coat, which is the finished product of the stucco. So there's many layers, and it has a reinforced fiberglass mesh, which prevents any cracking as it expands and contracts over time.
Yeah, I believe the failures were moisture related.
Right.
That was a.
In between the house and the.
So
Yeah,
once we remove, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Once we remove all the aluminum siding and I believe behind that is the old cedar shake shingles. If you get it all back down to the sheeting, we were going to put like a Tyvek vapor barrier or something equivalent to that. And of course, any sheeting that's damaged, we would repair it. Put new sheeting as needed all around, and then go with a vapor barrier. So that will definitely solve the issues of the moisture that they used to have. A lot of the older, not I wouldn't say older, but years ago, they were skipping putting the vapor barrier on the sheeting. That's when the moisture was getting through the insulation right to the sheeting, and that's over time was causing mildew and mold and a lot of problems. When I went back and repaired a lot of old jobs, and once we removed all the base coat, finish coat, styrofoam, we found that there was no vapor barrier, and that was a big.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Anyone else have comments on this application?
No, it's AHRB, so we don't need a public hearing, right?
No,
So-
no, no. So,
Be ready to move.
I'm prepared to vote
okay, good.
for this.
All in favor? Aye.
Like,
Opposed?
I think we need to read the resolution.
Right, I just have a quick resolution. I'll just say,
Oh, yeah, we don't
basically, therefore be resolved, the AHRB
It's too long.
of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based on the findings and reasons set forth below, the application for architectural and historic review approval is granted, subject to the following conditions. And the plans are specifically referred to the March 21st, 2023 plan.
Good,
So moved.
good.
So
So moved, all in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, it's passed. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you, board members.
Yeah,
Have a good evening.
all right. And where are we?
183 Ashford.
Yeah. Second on our agenda, 183 Ashford Avenue, draft AHRB resolution.
Oh, here, it's actually proposed frame deck from first floor to lower level.
Right, that's right,
It's
sorry.
not on your
Thank you.
thing there. Oh, there it's done.
Yeah, there it is down there.
Good evening.
Evening.
My name is John Rapetti, owner and architect at 183. We're going to replace our existing concrete steps that go down to the lower level, a small wood frame deck. The specs of the Trex decking, cable rail, be black.
Probably better if you speak into the microphone,
All right,
please.
can you hear me okay? So, yeah, we're going to use the Trex decking and cable rail. Everything black. It's a very black and white house. Want to modernize it a bit.
I don't think there was much here either.
And the small patio at the bottom of the stairs, that's part of the scope of the project?
Yes.
And what's the wall structure going to be? Is that,
So they're, I think the stackable ones, it's probably 21 inches, so 3 steps. And it's, I think I put spec in here. It's like, get the name of it. I wasn't sure if that was part of your scope, but I included it anyway. Cambridge stone.
Right.
and the surface?
Gravel.
It's nice.
So are you removing the siding or,
No,
no, so the
not yet.
stucco
Yeah.
piece there, is that?
Yeah, no, the house is remaining.
Is remaining, you're just gonna finish it or whatever?
It's a tall house. from the back, I guess.
Well, it looks like this is a nice improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
I'm happy with it.
There's a-
Resolution.
Anybody,
Yeah.
you ready to do the resolution?
Anybody have any?
Any comments? No? Well, I would move we close the public hearing.
There's no, it's
There's no
architectural
public
overview board. Let's let Valerie do her thing.
Say, all right, so the property is 183 Ashford Avenue. Therefore, be it resolved, the AHRB of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that, based on the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application for AHRB is granted subject to the following, and the approved plans specifically refer to the April 29, 2023 plans, as well as some supplemental sheets from the AHRB application.
Okay, you so move.
So move. All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, what do we have now? Now we have zero, we're up to Zero Mountain.
Here we go. All right, number 3 on our agenda, Zero North Mountain Drive.
This is a continuation of a public hearing.
A long public hearing.
Good evening, Chairman Hunter and members of the Planning Board. Kristen Wilson here representing the owner of Zero North Mountain Drive, along with Patty Steinschneider. And I'm not sure if anyone is joining us virtually, but certainly field any additional questions the board may have. I'm not aware of any new, at least written, public comments or concerns that have been submitted to the Planning Board, but if there have been, please let us know, and we would be happy to respond to them. And at this point, I think Patty has a few statements to make, and then pictures, and then depending on if there's any public hearing comment tonight, we'd be asking the public hearing to be closed.
The only new information that I know of is that we got an updated, or we finally found the sky exposure plane drawing, and it is conforming with that. So
Well, I want to
that
talk.
eliminated one of our concerns.
Okay.
Does anybody have any comments here in the room?
I think we have to open the hearing again.
Oh,
I'll watch the pictures.
okay,
Okay, so I should talk, right?
go for it.
Go ahead.
No, you shouldn't talk. It's okay. At the last meeting, we had some conversations about things like concessions and changes and what we could do. And basically, as we've said, this house has really been designed specifically for the people who want this house. And it's really tight to be what they want it to be. I understand you don't always get what you want, but unless there's a reason to not, then I don't see a reason that we would make what I'd call concessions. That doesn't mean that we don't take a look at things, and if there's a concern, try and see what we can do. So we've actually made 2 very small changes. I'm not trying to suggest that the cuts are dramatic and impressive at all, but we have reduced it. So we've gone from 17.95% coverage to 17.3, which reduces the size of the house about 250 square feet. It's just we were able to tighten some things up, move some things in, made some minor changes to the way the gables worked. It actually made them about a foot shorter, things like that. Not that we were close to the height limit or anything like that, but it was, and if I'm thinking concession, it was, can we make the house slightly smaller? More significantly, what we played with was a very, very slight rotation of the house, just tweaking it. Before, what we had, the drawing this up here now, we had the north wall parallel to the north property line. I usually like to start with something that's like, here's a line, let's make one parallel so we can get the layout right. But I realized there's no reason we couldn't do the same with the south property line. So that's what we did. And this is showing the image of the house is what we had before, and the blue line is the rotation. The most significant thing this does is it pushes the southwest corner of the house about 10 feet further away from the street. So it means that the house it feels like it's further back than it was. It doesn't change where the porch is. That pretty much stays as it is. You can see that you actually have some gray that's outside of it. That's, the square footage that got kind of shortened up. What this also did is it means that our Caltech units, which were kind of tight before, have more space. So I think there's less of a concern. Although I think it was all going to work, it still means that we just have it less tight. So this is the plan that we submitted a couple of weeks ago for you guys. We showed, this is on the drawings showing what the changes are and compared to what they were before. And basically, we also talked about, I was all ready to really go into this whole thing with the sky exposure plan, but so I'm still going to do that.
No need to.
So what we did is we did a plan for the sky exposure plan so you could see exactly the points that we were taking and how that complies with what the code actually calls for. And then we came up with a question. Everything with this project, as with others, seems to bring another question. In the code, it doesn't say whether you're supposed to use the proposed grade or the existing grade. Now, I admit that when I went to talk with John and Dan about it, John very quickly said, well, which one did you use? And I said, no, I'm not going to fall into that. So what we did is we did both. So we show it with, this is the one that is the existing grade before we've regraded the site and made changes. And this is the one with the proposed grade changes. But effectively it does. Obviously the elevation at the property line doesn't change, but the grade at the house does. So if you have a higher grade, lower grade at the house, your measuring point changes. So in both cases, I think you can see that we're very distant from encroaching into the sky exposure plane. That made me think that maybe we should point out some of the things that we have done with this in terms of what the actual limits of the site are and what we're doing. Because the feeling I've gotten from some of the conversation is though this house is being shoehorned in on a small lot. And it really isn't. Front yard requirement is 30 feet. When you have steep slopes on the site, you can move that forward, which is what we've done. We've moved it to 24 feet at the closest, 42 feet where we have that corner that slid back. That requires that we change the rear yard setback. So the rear yard setback is a 25-foot minimum. We have 49 feet. So our rear yard is 49 feet, where 25 is required. The side yard minimum is 20 feet. Our smallest is 43 feet. And the total side yard is 50, and we have 86.5. So we have a lot of room around the house before we're getting close to our setback requirements. Where we are at a top, which is not unlike many other projects that we've done, maybe that's my problem, but we'll talk about that another time. We are at 17.3% when the maximum is 18%. But that is what accommodates the size of the house that the family that wants to build this house are looking for. We're allowed 4,200 square feet. What we're proposing is 4,040. Impervious coverage, we're allowed 40%, which is 9,335, and we're proposing 33.9, which is 7,910 square feet. The height, we're allowed 35 feet and 2.5 stories. We have 35.5 feet and 2 stories. The two things that we've talked about in the past of primary concern are, the first one is site engineering. I've already shown you all the documentations of all the steep slopes and how this fits in with the neighborhood. I want to show this slide again, which demonstrates that the areas of the site that are the steepest slopes are the ones that we're avoiding. That's not in 300-34, but that is in the other section of the code that was specifically written to address the concerns with building on steep slopes. We have all, we've gone through all the stuff with rock, how we're doing the rock removal, the reports and all that. The idea that we're stepping the foundation so that we're reducing what the quantity of rock removal will be. I don't know why I'm showing this one again. And this is getting into the storm drainage. And stormwater is a primary concern on this property. I think was the #1 concern that neighbors had. So Hudson Engineering has done a really, really good job of putting something together, which I think is way past what would be technically required. But I think it's what's appropriate given the concerns at the site. So this has all been already reviewed by the village engineer and by the neighbor's engineer. And the neighbor engineer was very effusive in how wonderful it was. Anthony was not quite as much, but that's not appropriate, right? So these are the reports. Again, you've seen this stuff before, the distance to the ledge, that it's not all ledge. And this is just showing that, that whole area in the back, when we're talking about permeable paving, we're not talking about the water finding its way in between the cracks. We've actually got a design that leaves an area adjacent around the blocks. So you really are capturing most of the water that falls on it. And then, of course, the major issue here is the character of the existing neighborhood and how we relate to that. And we've shown this drawing before, and I think it shows things very well. It was where we did a comparison of the existing houses and then looked at what we're proposing and how it relates. And we showed that we were like in the middle of what the house sizes are in our limits of context limits. And this is one I showed really quickly at the last meeting, and I think it's a really important idea here. This is a typical neighborhood in Dobbs Ferry. And this is at 71 feet equals an inch. So you see that there's this space between the houses, but it's, Dobbs Ferry is a closely developed village, except when you get up to North Mountain Drive. This is 142 feet in scale, which means that it's dramatically different. Oh, that's him. Okay. So there's a lot of space around these houses. And the other thing this drawing shows is that, yes, this could be a house that inspires others to build up there. And there are 1, 2, 3, there's another one right here, 4 building lots in that area. And maybe somebody will choose to do that. But the concern about that, I think, has just been overblown, that that's going to somehow change the character of Dobbs Ferry. Hopefully, it would generate a tremendous amount of tax revenue that would help us do some of the things that we need to do. The width of this house is 90 feet. I've shown you these photographs of houses in the neighborhood. This is the house across the street. It's 107 feet wide. The next one is 66, 86.
Excuse me. A lot of these houses that you're showing are all on flat land, so I think it's a little bit of a difference.
This is not flat land.
Well, well, that one in particular is
Well,
not.
show me where, I haven't shown
But
any.
it's the way that it sits on the road. So in other words, the proposed house is on a steep slope this way. All the other houses tend to be more down the hill.
A couple of them are down, but you can see, this is nowhere near the required front yard setback. The reason that they were allowed, I don't know if the code was the same as it was now back then, but behind this house is a sheer cliff.
Down.
So all of these properties have the same, that's what those other drawings I showed give you the information. They're all steeply sloped. There's maybe 2 or 3 houses in the neighborhood that aren't, but this is certainly not flat site, and this is a house.
It's also sitting on top of a slope rather than being embedded into it.
Okay. If I'm trying to understand what has an impact, I would think a house sitting on top of a slope has more of an impact than a house sitting into the slope. Often what we were asked to do, and we've been with houses in Dobbs Ferry, is can we nestle it in so it doesn't feel like it's looming relative to its neighbors. That's definitely what we've done in this. In fact, this is kind of interesting. This house is 86 feet wide. On this side, it's 118 feet wide, both sides facing the street. This is 109 feet. Again, these are all sloping properties. This one's relatively flat in the area of the house, has a big slope back up behind it. This, in Dobbs Ferry, this is a steep slope. I think that would be great to change. I think 15% grade, which would be in 10 feet, 1.5 feet, like my lawnmower might notice it. But we count that as steep slopes. We count that as requiring a deduction. So, the reality is this neighborhood is pretty much big houses with a lot of character. Some of them not terrible. Some of them really amazing. Some of them absolutely, kind of astounding. So these are the drawings that we've shown you before of what we perceive this house being, how it's been designed, how it fits in with the character of the aesthetics, the architecture, the design, of the neighborhood, but it still is a house that's being built today. And then we've got the drawings. If there are any questions that you guys have about how we've done any of this stuff, I mean, you are also the Architectural Review Board. And before I fall into something, we haven't made an issue of that or something, but we've included these drawings that we now have up for the last 4 meetings. So for 4 months, we have had all of the elevation details, the brickwork, the way we're corbelling out at the corners and picking up detail under the eaves. The detail in this house is extensive. It's intentionally, it's intentionally refined in its approach. It's not a rough country house. It's a very, very styled house. And we've used materials that I think are going to be handsome. When I was showing this to somebody, they actually thought we were doing all stucco. The whole front of the house is brick. It's not white brick. And actually, the young lady left, what would be great on her house is instead of stuccoing over the brick, if she used the lime wash, she could get the color of the house to match kind of the feel of the stucco with the brick with less expense and kind of handsome. So we've selected materials that I think work well. And I think that is it. So if you have any questions, I'd like to answer them.
The other 3 sides are stucco?
Some of the other sides are stucco, but we have clapboard on some of it where we've got some, wood tones. We're not sure what the stain on that's going to be yet. But the idea is combination of materials, breaking things down. I mean, when I was looking at that, I really dislike the word concessions. But the idea of cutting things, we could dramatically reduce the size of the house if we eliminated the covered porch in the back. Of course, it would have no effect to anyone else other than the people living in the house. Not seen, not blocking anyone's views, no sunlight being lost. Would just mean that they don't have a covered porch, which would be a really nice thing to, on a day like this even. Some ceiling fans sitting outside and not sweltering. It could be really nice. I was measuring houses today in the sun. And
It was hot.
it's hot. And I have not been thinking about this air, but I can just tell in my throat, being outside is really bad.
Well, I appreciate your efforts to reduce the subjective scale of the project, because that's certainly been a concern.
Thank you.
Open a public hearing.
Yeah, so just open the public hearing.
Yeah. I move, we open the public hearing. Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone here wish to speak to this or on?
I'll give it a shot. James Kyberd. I live in the pink Princess House on Clinton Avenue. That's what the little girls say, then they grow up and they still call it the pink Princess House. My compulsion to speak on Zero North Mountain erupts from having been tangentially part of my life since it was first presented. I've had to sit and listen to presentations of Zero North Mountain before the planning board to hear your responses over months as I waited for other projects on the agenda. I have grown curiouser and curiouser as to the strum and drang surrounding this strong design for Zero North Mountain. The contrast between how Zero North Mountain has been treated by this board and other projects that I was attending to, for instance, 34 Clinton Avenue, is daunting. My curiosity piqued. I have taken time to look at the plans, visited the site, gotten to know that neighborhood, and I'm hearing objections to this design that should have been made about the other projects that were presented here, but were not. The context is everything. The house design for Zero North Mountain is distinctive in a setting of aspirational and strong contenders. The design aesthetic of this area, as we just saw, is about big, impressive homes that take themselves seriously. To fit in, the house should stand out. To fit in, the house should stand out, which I think this one does. But even then, the design of Zero North Mountain has been scaled to be proportional and distinctive, adding to the positive character of the built landscape of this neighborhood. So how can we micromanage the design of this project when we were so accommodating to the applicant of 34 Clinton, for instance, over the unanimous concern of the neighbors of 34 Clinton? Nobody in the historic district supported that project. In this area, I think it's supported. Of all the concerns identified for 0 North Mountain Drive have been appropriately addressed. So it seems the only effort is to manipulate the code to justify and generate a claim that it is too big. To those that say it's just too big, perhaps it is not big enough. Look at the neighborhood, the context of the surrounding, I am special homes. And that's where this house will sit. That is the nature of the neighborhood. I think this project is special and a very special neighborhood. It stands out and deserves your approval.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to this?
Anyone online? So we close the public hearing.
Yeah, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
This is for site plan or AHRB or PG.
Do we have resolutions for both?
Yeah. I move that you read them. No, just tell us about them.
So I'll start with 0 North Mountain. Whereas 0 North Mountain is seeking site plan approval to construct a single-family home, whereas the Blair's Planning Board conducted a duly noticed public hearing on September 3rd, 2022, and it was concluded on July 6th, 2023, during which time all those wishing to be heard were heard. Whereas the Planning Board is familiar with the project site and general vicinity, has reviewed the application according to Chapter 300 zoning and land use. Now therefore be it resolved, the Planning Board of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application for site plan approval is granted subject to the following conditions. 1, the approved plans. It specifically identifies all the plans that have been submitted to date. Also the following conditions must be met before the chairman signs the plan. 1, there's a couple conditions dealing with the language that needs to be stamped to the plans, as well as that the applicant must address the full satisfaction of the village engineer all outstanding stormwater maintenance agreement, and engineering issues raised in the hearings and documents submitted. The applicant shall pay all outstanding consultant review and legal fees in connections with the planning board and review of this application. And also, I think that's the last of the major conditions that you can vote.
I so move. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good.
Thanks.
Looking forward to seeing the house.
And then there's the AHRB vote.
Oh, no.
And resolve the AHRB approves this application subject to the following conditions, and then specifically refers to the site plans and landscape plans dated June 21st, 2023 and June 15th, 2023.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 We'll have second then.
Mr. Kyber persuaded us.
Okay.
It's my birthday.
It's your birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. You may go home.
You're welcome.
Number 2 on our agenda, this portion of our agenda, 11 Fairlawn Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, they're going to adjourn that until August 3rd.
Okay, thank you. Next on our,
Vote on that?
Do we have to vote on
there
this?
should be a
Yeah, we
motion
have to
and a
vote
second.
to continue the,
okay. I move that we continue it to our next meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next is 0 Lafergie Avenue, continuation of public hearing for proposed plans to construct a new 2.5-story residence.
Mr. Chairman, I think you also have the landscape architect who's on tonight's meeting as well. I think she might be joining us.
Hero Lafergie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi. Is it possible for us to be pushed to the last of the agenda today? Our architect is running just a couple of minutes late.
Yes,
Is that possible, or I can speak to it if not?
I don't know. Well,
No, I don't see any reason not to.
Yeah, that's okay.
yeah, that's fine.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Number 4 on our agenda, 21 Hollywood Drive, continuation of public hearing for proposed plan to construct a new single-family residence and garage.
And the landscape architect should be on Zoom to also speak to this application. Suzanne Nolan?
Need to stop online. Yes, I want them right here.
Owner or the owner's consultant?
Yeah.
I want them right here.
So 0.
Yeah.
There she is.
Yeah.
Is the applicant on?
We got a lot of people on there.
Voice is on.
The applicant should proceed.
Hi, good evening. So we're following up our previous presentation and wanted to note that we've resolved the concerns that were raised by our neighbors, the neighbors of the project, particularly in relationship to the rain garden engineer. Our engineers sort of expanded that capacity and then shown that we're going to direct the water away from those neighbors down the hill. Those changes were made prior to us getting the most recent comments from the landscape architect. We've had a chance to review those. We're going through them in detail now and understand the concerns that are being raised and believe that we can resolve those. Primarily there's a lot of it's about noting the plans, providing some additional information, addressing some inconsistencies from the survey, and just believe that we can come to a resolution without major changes to the plan.
This is 21 Hollywood, right?
Yes. Now, have you addressed the issue of moving the water garden? I gather that it was supposed to shift a few feet. Is that something that's been worked out?
Well, it's not on the current set of plans. That was brought up, Suzanne brought that up in her comments. So it would have to be shifted a little bit to avoid the tree roots.
Is that something that you're prepared to do?
Suzanne had a lot of comments, didn't she?
I'm looking at them now.
Yeah.
So, if I could just jump in, I had a lot of comments because there are some really nice trees there, and I think that with some, interventions during construction, they will be able to be saved and thrive, and continue to be really pretty spectacular trees. So, it was kind of very, specific direction about how to go about saving those trees, and part of this would be moving the rain garden, which there's a lot of room back there. So I think that really wouldn't be a problem. And, the inconsistencies, some of the trees are just mislabeled a bit. They're not truly inconsistencies. The size is very accurate, but it just is, they're even more spectacular trees than, the plan shows.
I don't know if they're engineers on, but on the stormwater front, the
Yeah,
engineer did.
Is Ralph should be there
Ralph
in
should be
person?
on. If you can try to invite him to join, he's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he can speak to the rain garden.
They did provide calculations showing an increased capacity to the 100-year storm, and
That should work.
showed routing with a swale along the rear yard to direct the water further to the south to avoid the downstream properties. So I thought it looked pretty good. But if they do move the rain garden, it would probably move it further south in that direction.
Right, and I think it seemed like, looking at it quickly, that, you know, with some minor adjustments, we can address concerns about the rain gardening impacting the root zone of those two, particularly two beautiful large trees, which we also agree, and I know that our clients agree with, we want to keep, so happy to do that.
Have you seen Suzanne's memo?
We have,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, is there anything there that you think you couldn't do? Or
No,
wanna
I
do?
think we can resolve all those for sure.
Okay. Could we include in the resolution that they will conform with Suzanne's recommendations as stated in the memo?
Yeah.
Is that putting too much on the building department? No? So we could go another month and work it all out better?
Yeah, I don't feel the need for that, but if you all do, then
No,
I'll
it's
defer,
okay.
but
I just,
I feel like they've got a good design here,
yeah,
and
I agree.
you know, unless there's a really good reason, we should let them start it.
Okay. I agree with you. Engineers comfortable with that?
Yeah, I mean, whether we review it, you know, changes now or before a building permit, it really doesn't make a difference to us. I think it's fine as conditions, actually.
Doesn't seem like it's going to substantially affect the project to me.
We would send it back to Suzanne and Anthony. They changed the plan anyway. So more on them.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll regularly get the plans before the building department issues a permit, just to make sure any remaining comments are answered, so not a problem.
And Valerie, do you have any issues that we're not
No.
discussing?
No, it was just really the landscaping comments were the outstanding.
Public hearing, open that?
Yeah. I move that we open the public hearing. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hello again.
Hi.
Cliff Kahan from 256 Judson Ave. I just want to make sure I understood what was just said.
Well,
So as long as they fix what's in the most recent paperwork, you're going to vote on it now for approval?
Yes, and as far as I understand, you got everything you asked for. Now,
Yeah, I believe so.
am I wrong there?
No, absolutely.
It made perfect sense. I think they did everything the way you proposed, and
No, absolutely. I mean, and it was great to see. It was unfortunate that they didn't get a chance to resolve it before, you know, like the documents came yesterday. As far as like the engineering of the storm water, where it said 10 inches was like theoretical or something like that, and it has to be proven.
They'll have to do a perk test prior to construction to verify it.
We do it on the first.
So as long as that works, then.
Yeah. If it's not that, if they don't get that percolation, they'll have to revise the pond size.
Yeah.
Or, you know, but that's something that we'll review.
Yeah, I mean, and the only thing that wasn't clear was it sounded like there was talk of moving it a little bit to.
Missing what you're saying.
Moving it potentially to
What
the
are
other
we doing
side,
now?
the south side. I forget which,
Okay, I got you.
maybe it was from the landscape architect.
Yeah, I think to avoid the large trees, it would have to move maybe
Moved away?
to the south.
Yeah, moved to the south, so not to the south side or just moved in.
Yeah, probably just a little bit further south.
Okay.
Outside the root
only
zone
because-
of these group of
So
trees.
and then the one thing that was there was about the swale and its size. Does it have to be a certain size?
Well, that's one thing, we actually asked for a a detail on the swale, to size the swale as part of that final revision.
So is it supposed to be a certain size?
Well, sure, just to accommodate the water flow that is calculated that would be coming out of the rain garden in an overflow situation.
So it's an unknown size, though.
Right now, he just has it shown as contours, as grading on the plan.
Yeah.
So what we're asking for is a cross-sectional detail to define a width.
Okay.
So that's something they'll compute and submit.
Okay, so it's just a simple mathematical.
Yeah, it's just
calculation.
looking at it's the size and the slope dictate, the slope and the material dictate the size of the cross-section.
Okay. No, that's good. I was glad to see everything that was in there. Just wanted to make sure everybody else saw it.
So Valerie, there's something in the resolution that they have to conform with Anthony's recommendations?
I do. I have that as well as landscape as conditions of approval.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Here to speak
Anyone
about
else here or online wish to speak? Yes, please. No, please, at the microphone.
Just a quick clarification. So moving the rain garden, as you're proposing for the protection of the trees, will not change the direction of the drainage, that was also proposed. Is that right? I mean, I'm on Judson, kind of down slope. So I'm just concerned about that because I heard Suzanne say, well, there's so much room. I'm sure it could be moved to, the rain garden could be moved to a better spot. And I just want to make sure that if that is done, that it will not, cause more water coming down slope.
Anthony, am I correct that it's moving to the south? So it should actually improve the situation?
Oh, so it will move to, it is moving to the south. Okay.
Yeah, we'll make sure the direction of the flow will remain in the swale, which will direct it to the south.
Thank you.
And then we just move it along that line maybe a little bit to avoid those trees.
Great.
You have to identify yourself, too. Just need to tell us your name.
I'm so sorry. Joan Piscatello at 250 Judson.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Online, here? So I would move that we close public hearing.
Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
So we ready to vote?
I think we are.
You're not going to vote.
We need a resolution.
Yes,
no?
I have it ready.
Just want to make sure everybody's on board.
A short resolution.
So we'll start right now. We'll start with the planning board. 21, oops, sorry. Wrong resolution, that was the AHRB resolution. Okay. 21 Hollywood Drive is seeking site plan approval to construct a new one-family residence and merging of 3 property lots. Whereas the planning board is conducting duly noticed public hearing on June 1st, and it was concluded on July 6th, 2023, during which time all those wishing to be heard were given the opportunity to be heard. Now therefore be it resolved, the planning board of the village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application for site plan approval is granted subject to the following conditions. So it specifically refers to architectural plans and site plans that were submitted dated April 6th, 2023 and June 14th, 2023. And the following conditions must be met before the planning board chair may sign the final site plans. It deals with the specific conditions are that the applicant must address to the full satisfaction of the village engineer all outstanding storm maintenance agreements and engineering issues raised in the hearings and documents submitted, including the memo dated July 5th, 2023. Village engineer must review the final engineering plans. The applicant must pay all consultant review and legal fees in connection with the planning board application. The applicant must demonstrate that the proposed planting plan meets the 50% replacement and total aggregate diameter of trees proposed for removal with new trees as per section 300-51I. The applicant must respond to all comments by the village's landscape consultants memorandum dated June 30th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, we
And
still
then
have the AHRB.
Yes. So then the AHRB is again, AHRB, Village of Dobbs Ferry, determines that based upon the findings and reasons set forth below, the application for AHRB approval is granted, and this one specifically again refers to the architectural plans dated April 6, 2023, and site plans dated last revised January 13th, 2023.
All right. Is there a second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, where are we going now?
Let's do 25 Osceola.
Yeah, we go, yeah, that's what I thought.
Is Fergie here yet?
I don't know.
Yeah, we're moving it to the end at their request.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Next item is 25 Osceola Avenue, public hearing for referral from Zoning Board of Appeals for proposed plans to construct retaining walls to level rear yard and ancillary site work.
Okay, good evening. Paul Petretti, engineer for Michael and Julia Savali. Landscape architect Dan Sherman is with me. If you'd like me to review this application again, I can. Yes? No?
Has anything changed since the last presentation?
Okay. It just got prettier. Added pretty. Okay.
Okay.
You added a few, okay.
So I do have a few landscaping questions, so if I
Here
could.
he is.
So we got a letter from the neighbor that they're concerned about looking at a, block wall from their property now. I just want to confirm, based on our previous meetings, that you're moving evergreens taller than the wall, and they will completely obscure the view from their property.
Yes, complete. The arborvitaes are actually 14 feet high, 15 feet high. They're in front of the house right now, and we're moving those all the way along this southern side. We're stopping them, as I mentioned last time, to allow the neighbor, if they can see it, to still see the golf course, but they will not see the wall at all. And there's to be ivy on the wall as well. So
And how tall is the wall again? At its tallest? Yeah, 10 feet?
8 foot 10 inches.
8 foot 10 inches.
Just on the radius.
Pretty good size wall.
Goes 0 for about 45 inches. Now, if you bench some soil in front of it,
Microphone, please.
if you bench that, you could probably get another 18 inches of soil on a bench, about 6 foot wide. Put that on there so the wall, effectively comes down to, I don't know, 6.5 feet, 7 max, okay? I mean, there's so many ways to skin the cat. That's one of them.
Now, what about making sure that they stay healthy, those evergreens? Is irrigation being added?
the property has irrigation now, but the zones will be extended to keep the lawn above green and all the plantings around. And then we have this is going to be an attractive kind of garden that we really wanted to do, because there's a really neat sort of I don't know what you'd call it, like a hollow, the way the rocks form. So we made a garden out of that. That will need irrigation. It's weeping cherry trees. And
looks nice.
And so that irrigation will continue right around.
Great. And Valerie, is there anything in the code to require them to maintain the health of those trees for at least some period?
So right now, I mean, there is, and that will be part of approving resolution. Right now, this application is before this board specifically for recommendations. If you recall, they're in front of the ZBA, and the ZBA asked for the board to review the application and look at the recommendations for the variance. So any resolution tonight would be a recommendation resolution back to the ZBA to continue further proceeding.
So we're not doing site plan, we're just doing a recommendation.
That's
All right.
I think I'm prepared to recommend
too.
this project.
What's the
That's-
variance for again?
Height of the wall.
Oh, is the variance for the height of the wall, Valerie?
So the variances, were specifically for, I believe, the heights of the wall.
The wall height.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The zoning board of appeals to approve the side and rear yards of the single-family lot and construct 2 retaining walls to provide for area for the family use, and it was specifically for walls.
Okay.
It's a public hearing, so you should open that, and if you're satisfied, close it.
Even just for a recommendation?
It's listed as that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We need to open the public hearing.
I move we open the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody out there online to talk about this, or? Close the public hearing?
No, she said there is.
No, she is.
Oh,
There is.
There is.
Oh, there is.
Wait.
Just took what she said.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, it's Larry Sibley. We're the neighbors in question, I guess, at 155 Sherman. So that sounds a lot better. I would just say that it was mentioned, the code, the maintenance of the health of the trees, because, a wall is forever and trees can be moved. They're being moved now. So it would just be important, and I don't know if that's this board or the CBA or what, who has jurisdiction over that, but I think it would be important that that be incorporated in this in some sort of legal way.
Could you identify yourself, please?
I thought I had. I'm Larry Sibley. I'm the neighbors at 150. We're the neighbors at 155 Sherman Avenue, right next door to the Savalis.
Thank you.
I believe that's the case.
Okay.
That there is legally, they're liable to keep those healthy or replace them.
Our planning consultant is going to include that in our recommendation to the zoning board.
Okay.
But also that'll go into the site plan, right?
Right, so I think ultimately we'll have to put it into the site, and I think right now I think there's a guarantee for like a couple years, but we will have to I'll work with Dan to see about something more long-term than that.
Well,
Yeah, I would suggest you do that just because, an 8-foot, 10-inch wall is permanent and well above code. And so it would be important that the trees be maintained as, for longer than 2 years.
well.
Okay.
Good idea. You can't enforce it.
Well, we're going to find a way.
Yeah, right.
Anybody else online?
You could put a note on the plan, we've done this before as well as the resolution. So when the plan gets filed, say, the owner's responsible for the maintenance of the landscape and the plant trees.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Okay.
Close the public.
Should we close the public hearing?
I guess hearing everyone's been heard from, I would move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
All right, so I have a resolution for the board, a recommendation resolution back to the zoning board of appeals. So the resolution reads that, Michael and Julie Valley are seeking zoning board of appeals approval to level the side and rear yards of a single-family lot and construct tiered retaining walls to provide an area for family
What
use.
do we do with this one?
We did that.
Whereas this application was
back to
referred to the planning board by the ZBA for a recommendation, and whereas the planning board has carefully examined the application and the applicant's materials as follows, and so I specifically referred to the plans and the latest revised plans. The planning board deliberated, and now therefore be it resolved, the planning board has reviewed the proposed site plan and finds that by a vote of, and I'll put the vote in, that variances proposed are appropriate for the project and the objectives of the applicant, and be it further resolved, the planning board recommends the applicant continue their application at the zoning board of appeals. I don't specifically write the exact variances that are being requested, because if you recall, there have been changes to the site plan since they've come to the ZBA, and I don't know what the exact variances are at this point, but the resolution specifically refers to the plans themselves, and then the ZBA will then give the exact variances.
And then it comes back to us
And
again?
then we come back to you for final site plan approval, and
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that a-
So do we vote on that?
yeah, you need to come.
Okay.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good
Good luck with the ZBA.
Yeah. Send it back to them.
So are the Zero Lafergie applicants prepared now?
We are.
Okay.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Item 3, it's number 3 on our agenda. We'll handle it now. Zero Lafergie, a continuation of public hearing for proposed plans to construct a new 2.5-story residence.
Good evening, everyone. So from our last conversation, there were 3 main topics that were asked for us to address. The first one was
Could you just
around...
identify yourself for the record? 'Cause you're not...
Oh, absolutely. Sorry. My name is Pratik Anand. I go by Max. I am the co-owner of Zero Lafergie with my wife, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So the first item was the issue with the line of sight from the driveway when you're looking to the left for our neighbors at 85 Lafergie. So my wife and I, we went to 85 Lafergie, spoke to the neighbor, addressed the issue with them, and they have agreed that it is okay to cut back those shrubs. So we have a clear line of sight there to see the cars that are oncoming from the left from our driveway. I'm not sure if there was anything else that was needed for that, but they are on board and they just said, let us know before you cut the shrubs, and that's all they would like.
I think it was actually on the plans, in the elevations of the driveway as opposed to the banks, the level of your window, unless you had a really tall SUV, was going to be below the bank, and coming out onto the road, both looking right and left, you had to sort of poke the front of the car out to actually see.
Yeah, so in the updated, I believe in the updated engineering drawings, it does show that the driveway meets the road at the same level or the same grade.
Yes, but I'm just talking about, you have a hood in front of your car and the bank will go up on either side, so I wanted to make sure that you could see before you drove out onto Lafergie that you could see both ways.
The engineering plan did illustrate a line of sight both left and right.
Okay.
That 3-foot height at the driveway entrance each way.
Okay.
It was like 200 and something feet to the left and over 300 feet to the right,
So,
I recall.
3 foot, so you can't have a Ferrari, you have to have a taller car.
Yeah.
Well, if we ever do get the Ferrari, as you were recommending, I will be sure to come back to the board and make sure that we lower that wall at that point in time.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
While we're on the
Sorry?
driveway, are there any structures like walls, retaining walls or anything that are on the village right of way?
I believe the plan still showed walls within the right of way, so that'll need to be changed, or some kind of license agreement, or a maintenance agreement, or something with I think the Board of Trustees would have to be involved.
Correct.
In that.
Yes.
Yeah. We had that in our comments again.
So how does it work? How does the applicant address that?
Well, either they could regrade and remove the walls, which I think would be better than trying to get some kind of agreement, but it's up to the applicant.
So we looked at the possibilities, and to meet the 14% requirement of the code, unfortunately does have to be the way that it is. Otherwise, we won't be able to meet that 14% requirement.
And by the way, we did verify that 14% on the driveway is apparently, it is allowed. It's in one of the site plan checklists. I I thought it was 12 actually, so.
I thought it was 12 also.
Yeah, well, Dan and I both thought it was 12. So it is in there, 14, so it is, some point, you know, that was established, 14% on a driveway seems to be okay, but if the walls are gonna remain, then it has to be something, some kind of application to the Board of Trustees.
Do we have to write a recommendation, or
I'm not sure what would
how does it
come
work?
first, the site plan approval, or go to them first, or it would be subject to approval by
Before
the
they
board?
can get approved, they have to go to BOT.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah,
I
this
also
was-
have a little bit of a concern about that 14-degree grade. As a person with a driveway and who goes sliding into Judson Avenue and it's really, really icy out, and which is a pretty quiet street, you know, you're talking about a fairly major through, you know, a through street if it gets more traffic. I don't know if there's any way to address that issue, but I'm a little concerned that you're going to go sliding into the middle of Lafergie on an icy morning, and you know, that could end badly.
Yeah, that's that's one of our concerns as well, to be honest. Coming off the driveway, especially since we do have 2 kids, and so what we're looking at is potentially to see if there's a way we can have a heated driveway, which we can use when it gets in the icy and snowy conditions to help us, minimize that. But kind of coming back here, this was the submittal documents that we found, which did say the driveway slope is at 14% maximum. If you can see my screen.
Yes.
I'm hoping, yeah.
Just out of interest, did the 12 degrees come from best practices? I mean, how did we assume that was correct?
That's practice.
Okay, so maybe we want to update our.
14 degrees is steep, that's why.
Right.
Yeah.
It's 14%, or 12, a lot of places have 10% on driveways, but,
We're steep here in Dutch area.
you know, something they should look at, the profile basically just had the one slope shown, and it's gonna vary at the bottom, so if they could look at maybe a profile on how it might even out a bit as it meets the street and show some, as the percentages might differ at the bottom. I don't think it's hitting right at 14%, but something to look at, I think, by your engineer.
I mean, you're saying you could profile it so it's a little, I mean, it shallows out.
Yeah, there's gonna be a kind of a vertical curve at the bottom that you'll have some varying percentages, so maybe they could look at that a little more carefully.
Sure. Well, I'll take that back. Lovely. The second big part was around the landscape. So Suzanne had sent us back comments. I believe there are 8, which I have up on my screen right now. Hopefully it's not too small for you guys there. But our landscape architect has gone through each and every single one of them and has updated and addressed each one of those items. So would y'all like to go one by one, or how would you like to proceed?
I think Suzanne is here also, correct?
Yeah.
Can you promote Suzanne? Thank you.
I think I'm still.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm gonna, start my video, so I'm not a disembodied voice. Okay.
Hi, Suzanne.
Hi there. I think the concern that I had is just that there was a lot of removal of trees, and the intention of the tree preservation ordinance is to preserve trees. So there was a disconnect between the limit of disturbance on the engineering drawings and what was shown as being cleared on the landscape drawings. So I'm assuming that it looks, so has the limit of clearing been reduced, or are you increasing the limits of clearing?
We're increasing the number of trees that we have planted, but additionally, what we've also done is provided justification for why we're removing certain trees. So there are trees here on this side of the property, which really doesn't have anything to do with the construction of the home. However, since we are looking into putting solar panels in the home, when we worked with our solar engineer, he had mentioned that these trees would have to come down to be for us to have the exposure on our roof to be able to make use of solar. And along with that, what we've done now, I believe, is she's also added in her comments here, additional trees have been planted. The native, I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce that even if you tried to pay me for that, as well as the shrub count has increased as well, to suffice for the ones that we are removing.
So because there is one, not all the trees weren't necessarily great specimens per the
right
tree summary, but there is actually one oak that it's a black oak. There's a black oak in good condition, and it's a significant size. I see there's a note there. What does the note say now?
Sorry, which one? What number is that?
I believe you're gonna. Can you increase the size of the drawing?
Oh, sure. Sorry, I thought you meant the Word document. Yes, absolutely. So.
Yep. I believe it's the 36-inch one, basically right in the center.
This one.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's either that one or the one behind. In fact, I think it might actually be the one farther away.
Okay. So yeah, that was one that was also identified for the solar panel exposure.
So in my world, having trees around your house actually helps with, heat in the summer.
Right.
So I think you could make that argument in both directions.
Okay. So it's this tree right here, the one that's further back.
That has no number?
Yeah, I'm just trying to confirm whether it's that one. If it's this one, it might be a challenge, but if it's this one in the back, then yeah, we could definitely relook to make sure that, we can keep that tree, especially if it's in good health.
So the difficulty in reading the plan is that it's actually, usually you would key this to so each would get a number. Each tree that you would be proposing for removal would get a number, and that would be numbered in the tree valuation count so that there's no confusion.
So actually, there is another document here. Maybe it has it in that. So so she's added the tree protection there with the ones in the boxes. So I'm assuming, well, that's the 10-inch one, so that doesn't make sense. So no. Number 34, let me go to 34, the Norway maple. Or
no,
37. 37, okay. So 30, yeah, so that's the closer one right there. So yeah, that was the one where it's closer to the home.
Right.
So how do you resolve competing issues that both have merit? One is it's a big, beautiful tree, and it will give you, it's deciduous, so it'll protect you from the sun in the summer and allow the sun through in the winter, as opposed to solar panels, which clearly aren't going to work if they're in the shade.
And the other just real quick topic I wanted to bring up was we spoke to a couple of our neighbors, and, especially the ones on the edges, they were quite happy that were being removed, especially this neighbor towards the back, because they had mentioned during high winds, they were afraid of the branches breaking off and falling onto their homes. And, that was another concern that we had for trees that are closer to the house itself.
Yeah, the beauty of tree 37 is that it's just basically far from the proposed home, and it's as far from your neighbors as it can be. So I just wonder, is the solar study that was done by the solar company, could that be done with just the one tree remaining?
Sure, I mean, we can, but the challenge of that is they basically said is if we do keep some trees, what we will risk is having partial solar coverage, which basically will reduce our efficiency from above 80% to down to 40 to 50%. So we can ask them to do that, but given that, you would need the full day's exposure, and this tree is so big, you're talking about anywhere from, starting from noon all the way towards the end of the evening, you're having partial solar coverage. And with solar, they need that full coverage there to be efficient.
Maybe they can the applicant can look into it and find out if it's really that tree is the deciding factor between like 80% to 40.
Yeah. Geothermal.
We're looking into geothermal as well, actually, as you do mention that.
Yeah, rock.
Hard to have it both ways.
I know that some communities have policies that, you know, tree removals are not the justification for, you know, solar. So I don't know if this has come up very frequently for Dobbs Ferry.
No, it hasn't.
Not,
Yeah.
not that I recall.
New territory.
There have to be carbon dioxide studies out there that evaluate a tree versus solar. I mean, I'll take a look.
You can report back.
But then as far as the deficit, Suzanne, we have added more shrub count to what do you call it, to make sure that deficit is no longer there. And then I believe you also had a concern around some of the trees attracting deer. We just wanted to call out that there has been fencing added to the property to prevent deer onto the property itself.
And is that deer, what height is the fence?
6 feet, I believe that's what she said. Yeah, yeah. If you see here, it says there's a 6 foot high deer fencing proposed, and the neighbor also has deer fencing.
Yeah, usually, yeah, that's the very minimum height for deer fencing.
We need a public hearing.
Okay.
We need to open it. Before we go much further, I'd like to move to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Not that we have much public here, but
Anybody online?
no.
There's somebody. Same guy.
So I gather the perk tests are still pending, is that correct?
So the machinery is actually on site right now. We're just waiting for 2 straight days where it doesn't rain to be able to conduct the perk test. So we've been trying to do it for the last 2 weeks, but as you know, we can't control Mother Nature. So as soon as we get 2 days straight, the perk test will be done. The machinery is already on site.
A question, Suzanne. The removal of so many trees and the biomass possibly, that's going to affect the runoff.
Well, absolutely. The reason for retaining trees and limiting disturbance is to prevent, is for stormwater reasons as well as for, air quality reasons. So, yeah, that is a concern.
So a perk test. Perk test. I mean, it's deep enough so that it's not affected by the biomass on the surface.
Yeah.
And they can provide the correct drainage.
The perk test will only measure the exfiltration rate or infiltration into the soil, the rate
Of the rock.
yeah, or find a level of rock or groundwater. Yeah.
Well, we need that to know where the Coltex can go, right?
Yeah, I think that was one of the concerns, and that's why they decided to do it, because of the steep slopes and configuration of the dry wells. That was something that we wanted to see verified, sooner than later. I'll also just point out, there are a couple other comments we had on it. Did you receive my latest memo?
Yes, we did. So I'm sorry, I didn't realize we were going to go to the public hearing that quickly. I did want to address that as well. So the perk test is currently happening. We talked about the 14% grade. For part number 4, we're working with the surveyor right now to get those details for the drainage and the sewage. So that will be provided as well. We talked about the ROW here, and so we have a path forward there. And then I believe the last part was around the cross section. So right now the dry well cross section is on the plans. However, the wall cross sections will be added and it will be there prior to the permit. So we will have that included.
I think in terms of the cross sections, I'm not sure that there are sections in detail. What we were looking for more was like sections through the switchback road and the dry wells, because you have the dry wells kind of in between the switchbacks. So I think you kind of need to do a cross-section down, like intersecting the driveway and the dry wells. That's what we were really looking to see.
Yep, it'll be done.
And if you had the perk test results now, the next few days, you should have your engineer just update those calculations at this point and verify those sizes.
Absolutely.
And on the sewer lateral, the other note we had was it'd be a good idea also with the steep slope and the switchback driveway to profile that pipe, because it's not gonna be just a straight shot with the sewer lateral, and you'll need to locate cleanouts probably a couple of places down along that driveway.
We've sent your entire comment to the surveyor and the engineer, so they're working on that.
All right, great. And the other thing Suzanne had mentioned, coordinating the limit of disturbance. She had noticed there was a difference from the landscaping and the tree removal to just make sure if you're removing trees and you're putting lawn in those areas, that's a disturbance area. So just take a look at that and make sure that's coordinated between the engineering plans and the tree removal and landscaping.
Absolutely, yeah. We have confirmation here that has been updated. Limit of disturbance has been updated on the landscape plan. So she spoke to Paul, our engineer, to make sure that they're aligned there.
Okay, great.
So are we going to continue to the next meeting?
So, yeah.
Okay.
Are you clear on what needs to happen before the next meeting?
Sure. Is it going to be approved now, or these items need to be added? Because for Suzanne, the only question I have is if we make a decision to keep that 36-inch oak, is she okay? Or was there anything else that we needed to look into?
Sounds like there's a number of things to be resolved.
Yeah, I think we should wait till after the perk test and everything to approve the drainage and some of the cross sections that Anthony was looking for.
Does the board want to refer them over to the village board, though, at this point?
Yeah, what I was going to suggest is having that done before the hearing is closed and so action is taken.
Oh, yeah, it would affect site plan, right? And so,
because if they vote otherwise.
So he would just go before the village board and explain what he needs some marching
Have to
orders.
give an application.
Okay.
yeah, that's a bit of a process, unfortunately. So you should get started with the Board of Trustees as soon as possible about the structures.
The ROW?
Right of way.
Okay. Is there any any guidance or any documentation online that we can look at to get that process started?
No, you can
Submit.
email Sarah tomorrow, and
Okay.
she'll give you the board packet, just like the planning board packet,
Lovely.
and then go from there.
The trustees may want some guidance from this board, though, as to how the planning board would view and approve, approving the work in the instructions in the right of way.
It would just be maintenance, right? I mean, if it's done,
Well-
make sure it's a good structure and.
Yeah, I think they want to know with the applicant coming in whether the planning board is more or less in favor of the
project.
I mean, in
Without
this
voting
situation, I
on
would
it,
say,
just-
it's a pretty wide, from the edge of the road to the property line is a pretty good distance. So I could see the problem why they had to continue the walls into the right of way. So I think they, as long as they have enough clearance to the, which I think is a pretty good distance between the wall and the edge of the road, I don't see a problem, as long as they maintain it and they own it. Like it's not the village's, and it's clearly not the village's responsibility.
Yeah.
These things over the years then become, is it the villages, is it the property owners,
There is a question, though. I mean, people have mentioned pedestrians on Lafergie. So is that side of the road where to put a sidewalk?
There still might be room, I think, actually. I think it was a pretty wide, do you have that drawing offhand that you could show it? The width
yes.
of the shoulder area of the property
Yes.
line?
It was wide, it was like 10 feet, I believe, 12 feet. It was pretty wide.
That sounds like there's a lot of space. I mean, this board is always looking to encourage sidewalks in places where people walk. And I hear that people walk along the Lafergie.
It's just,
Even if
give
it's
me
not-
one.
the sidewalk there would continue because of.
Yeah, it's a pretty
of some of the
steep,
other properties.
yeah.
So,
Well,
there
that's,
was-
that's the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even if it's on the sidewalk, it's, no obstruction,
At least,
so one could be added.
at least,
To me, it looks like it's, well, you can see it there, the property
Oh, yeah.
line is like, it's almost as wide as the roadway, the distance
Yeah,
back.
it gets wide, yeah.
But it's
So,
basically a bank.
yeah, so you may want to, on the plan, dimension the end of the wall to the edge of the roadway to show that clearance, show some dimensions there.
So you're talking about this wall right here.
Yeah, how much you're protruding into the right of way, and then how much is left clear to the edge of the edge of the pavement.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Is it realistic to think about putting a sidewalk there? I
Well,
mean,
it might
the
be
property seems so steep.
It might be the other side of the street too, so, I mean, I just don't.
yeah, I'd have to drive up there to see it.
And if I may ask another question, if by any means we were able to get rid of this wall right here that is in the right of way, would we be able to, pass going to the trustees to get that permission?
Yeah, that's the only reason you're going.
Yeah, that's the only reason you're going there.
So it's just that little wall right there.
Is there one on the other side too, or is just one?
No, this one ends right there.
No, that one, right. It's
Yeah, that's
just
why
the
if you
one on
could-
the right of way.
If you could
Yeah.
grade that out and get rid of that
This
wall,
one,
that's
right?
your best option, really.
Definitely.
What about
Yeah.
the side of the driveway, there's no wall there?
Oh, it's higher.
No.
Okay, yeah, so I'll speak to the engineer to see if we can grade that out, because I think that's the path of least resistance for us.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, we appreciate your guidance and your patience through this. We will get there.
Well, thank you. Yeah, likewise.
So you might want to just make a motion and a second to adjourn this until
August 3rd.
I'm sorry, August 3rd.
Yeah, okay, till next meeting.
Yeah.
All right. Motion is to adjourn to our next meeting.
August 3rd, 2nd.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you all.
Yeah.
We did that. That was the wall.
Oh, while I'm thinking about it, I will not be in town for the next meeting, just in case it affects the quorum.
All right.
You're not allowed to go away.
Pre-submission conferences.
Yeah, I think we're down to that.
Yeah.
Next on our agenda is a series of pre-submission conference for Planning Board AHRB agenda. The first is 1, review of introductory local law upon discretionary referral to the Board of Trustees. What's that?
It's the net versus gross lot area
Right.
clarification.
Yeah.
I read through it. I thought it makes sense. I'm prepared to vote in favor of it. Now, I have one question though. Since the 12th, there doesn't appear to be anything in the code about driveway slopes.
It's 14 degrees on our,
No.
that's all.
Yeah, do we want to, while we're recommending something to the village, do we want to recommend something that
Wait,
says?
there's a couple things that we have to change still.
Save it for the next
We
one?
are working on it, yes, for the
Okay.
next.
That's separate from the.
Yeah, so we will be undertaking zoning updates over the next year in terms of like housekeeping items. So this is one that we will definitely add.
Thank you.
That's what we
All right.
And it makes sense to feed these to the BOT in small bites.
Well, the housekeeping items will probably be a little bit larger, but in terms of this, I think this is really dealing with that Dan has some clarity on how to, or
Just
Dan
for
has
well-
clarity, the applicants
Everybody-
have clarity
Yeah,
on how
yeah.
to.
No, I think it's
define
really,
hot air.
the suggestions are really good.
It all has to do with the steep slope and the deduction
Yeah,
to
yeah,
that
yeah.
lot. And
And there's more work to do in that area too, and how steep slopes are defined and all that. But
Yes.
For now, just clearing up.
just to
net
clear
versus
it up
gross.
so there's no ambiguity in the code.
All right.
And you had the referral, we just vote on it?
So, I mean, I'm gonna just send, I told Lori Lee that I would, send her an email if there's no comments from the planning board in terms of it's just a referral in terms of your recommendation. It's nothing official like some of the other official referrals. This is something that's not, the village board is not obligated to ask for the referral, but they wanted to. So if there's no recommended changes to what's being proposed, I can just send Maureen Lee an email saying that, you know, the board recommends what is proposed at the.
It's okay with me.
I have no comments.
Yep.
I'm good with it.
That's fine.
Good.
Do we need to say something about that?
We
or
just did, I think.
We just did, okay. Okay.
Molten.
Hmm?
It's the next one, 6 molten.
What? 6 Molten, pre-submission conference for proposed regrading of rear yard.
Here to speak to that.
Oh, I hear a voice.
They're online?
Maybe not.
No, they aren't. They're supposed to.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, oh, hi.
Okay. I'm Michael Mastrojacco, I'm the engineer for the project. Just want to share my screen.
Regrading of rear yard.
Yes, so what happened with my client at 6 Molten during Hurricane Ida, he got pretty badly flooded. So what he would like to do, what we would like to do is raise the backyard that way to protect his basement from getting flooded again. And with doing this work, I've designed some drainage with a couple of drain inlets and Cultec units to pick up any additional flow and get it to percolate back into the soil.
And is the walkway on the left going to be replaced? On the left
This,
of the house?
yes, this walkway on the left, we're going to take it up. Also, the deck is kind of damaged, the footings and the wood posts. So we're going to rebuild the wood deck, stairs, and the walkway. Since we're raising the grade, we have to readjust all that as well.
What are the dimensions of that deck?
Deck dimensions are 4 feet by 7'6". More of a platform than a deck.
It's an existing structure now. They're just replacing it.
Okay.
Correct.
Is there an entrance there, or?
Yes.
I see, okay.
Yeah, at the top of the stairs, there's the entrance into the house.
Got it. So this seems more like your territory, Anthony. What's pending? on
Yeah, I
this?
was just looking at my memo. We had a few comments, some detail stuff. I mean, the main concern here that's kind of a low spot, this and the adjoining property, that we don't want to create an issue for an adjoining property owner. You know, if we're going to put Cultex in, you do have to do perk tests to make sure they are going to function.
We did do that. I'll
Okay.
document it on the drawings.
Okay, but I think we asked for like an overall kind of drainage look to, you know, show that we're not going to have an issue.
Sure.
You know, sometimes what we do with these, you know, the walls are going to basically be on each property line and fill the rear yard. Sometimes you set the walls back a little bit and have some kind of drainage or gravel area or under drain in front of it, so that we don't get like a ponding happening along the property line on the neighbor's property.
Okay.
There's a drain, I think, on the east property line, on the neighbor's property. I'd like to see where that goes.
There's a tall fence there. I saw it through the fence. I was able to locate it, you know, roughly where it is, but I can't get access to it to pop the bait, you know, pop the grate and take a look where it goes.
Right, so that's really the main concern. We don't want to create an issue on the neighboring properties, so.
So if I jog in the wall and I put a curtain drain with perforated pipe and tie it into the Cultec system, I may need to add one more Cultec. But I should
Yeah,
put that up
or,
both
you know,
sides.
let's see where that drain goes. And you tie it into that drain, does that go out? You know, I know it's a dead-end street in front, and it's up against the Sawmill Parkway, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's a drain line under there, but we don't want to, you know, just exacerbate anyone else's issues there. It would be mainly I think the property owner to the east.
Okay.
you know? So they got to take a look at that drain inlet and see what's going on there. where
I have a
that's-
funny feeling that drain inlet just sticks into the ground with gravel
Could
and
be
that's
just
it.
a dry well, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the concern on our end.
Okay,
with
so
things
I'm just
like
looking
this.
at I mean, this is the end of Moulton Avenue next to the sawmill. Are these three houses, were they all affected during, by that? I mean, is this a low area below the?
If you look at the contour map, this yard, the yard to the east, and maybe a little bit of the guy to the west are like in a low area.
Oh, gotcha.
They're even lower than the street, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
This house in particular is the lowest. If you look at the
Yeah.
two houses, I know with the aerial topos, you can't tell, but if you're out there, those properties are actually higher and everything just came to this house.
So they didn't have as much of the problem that he did.
No, no, he had a good 3 foot, maybe 3 foot 6 inches of water in his basement.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Good. Public hearing next week?
So do we want to?
Can we waive
Is
it?
this, so I guess that's the question. Should we, what do you think, Dan?
I think maybe this should go to public hearing for any neighbor comment.
Okay.
And just for clarification, Dan, this will not need AHRB, just planning board?
Not well, no, for the deck, it will need AHRB too.
Okay, so we'll.
Correct. So we could set a public hearing.
We have a.
If you feel ready.
All right. I move that we
Call for public hearing.
call for a public hearing at our next meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, thank you, and speak to you next month.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
Last item.
Patiently waiting.
last item. Shady Hill Lane? No.
Yeah, for Shady Lane.
Next and last item on our agenda, 4 Shady Lane, pre-submission conference for proposed addition on north side of the house, over the garage.
Sorry, I always have trouble with.
Yeah, I was looking there, and there she is. I was looking over here. We've lost our audience.
What time is it?
I
Too bad.
did found down, but the project that for shaping. So it was so the project or should
Sure. Yeah.
So, where Shady Lane is property at the corner of, the north corner of Shady Lane and Ashford Ave. It's a Dutch colonial house. And the proposal is to build addition. So proposal is to build addition above the level of the existing deck, which is on top of the existing garage. So off the north side of the house, you can see in the top photograph where that deck is, would reframe, build the deck, and above that, second floor at a primary. So, so there's no new work yet made. So, these are the
Is there any planned increase of impermeable surfaces?
Okay, so not at grade, but the deck, or rather part of the deck and addition on the second floor to cantilever out over, not a cantilever, but they project out past the line of the existing garage. And the only area that's new there is 24 square feet. So I believe that's below the threshold that which address water.
Thank you.
That's the main. So. So, I think we'll all about this might have defined support. So, you can see at the bottom of the page, we have the standard exterior elevation, and I believe that here is where we address the type of exposure. If you want a massive big picture, I address that now. The existing side of the house already, like a little bit of line in the bottom diagram. See that? So in the bottom diagram, you see that basically the lowest part of the roof and the highest part of that back wall do cross the side exposure plane a little bit. And that side of the house would be doing that same line.
How conforming are the adjacent properties to sky exposure?
It's in the OF6 zone. There's not many that comply with the sky exposure in that zone.
Yeah, I think especially here, the front yard is very level, but the backyard in the back corner drops off, and that's sort of like, look at that profile there is kind of where we see the issue. So, you know, from the street, this house doesn't look very tall, get down in the backyard.
Property drops off back there.
I don't know if we're also going into the AHRB also, okay. So.
For everything.
Okay. Still getting used to it, okay.
We are too.
Okay, so basically, the site plan issues, so as I said, really like nominal amount to do and permeable. And we're not, so there's no building footprint since structure's all above. So basic, the scope of the work for the house, the family of four, like increase the home's area by adding this bedroom suite. Project also interior renovation kitchen that aren't addressed here, but so it's a fairly sizable renovation. So on the north side, you see on the second floor plan that that's where we're adding the primary bedroom suite, and outside. So basically, our approach, see the street facing Shady Lane side is, so all around, we're going to be matching materials, roofing material, siding material, present siding material is aluminum with wood frame texture and an 8-inch exposure, and not knowing whether we really get the proper match. The owner is also considering replacing all of the siding throughout the already kind of flat siding, and same exposure and same type of textures, cedar mill line, grain effect, and would be white just like these. We're going to probably shutters on the house, but we're going to be matching what's there, and new shutters match the same.
Well, your plan doesn't show any shutters on the addition.
On the end, also on the fourth wall, there are shutters on that wall.
Can't see.
window. The house doesn't have shutters everywhere, but yes, it's true on the street faces we have right now. We're planning to add shutters on that. When I put it in, it was a little bit crowded on that wall, shutters, so stop them. And at the back of the house, there are no shutters. So, but as I said, generally, all of the materials that are there. As far as new windows and doors, owners would like to replace their existing entry door of their house with another. It's a nice arched, full arch door, so they're that. But get a new door. It would also be panel and lights. And the windows in the house presently cannot identify the manufacturer, but they're double con simulated divided light 606. So for the new windows, we're going standard 600 series. They're vinyl clad on the outside, with white match thing, double con guided lights for any other casements, doors.
So the new addition, when you were speaking about the siding, is that going to be the plank? The
So
what,
if we
yeah,
can get,
something
if
that
we
looks
can
like
get
it?
the same aluminum.
And is that going to be flush to the existing home, or does it have some kind of recess? Okay.
If you look at the street facing side of the house, so on the lower right,
Mhm.
we set it back, just gave it a little bit of relief to distinguish the masses from each other's. But on the back of the house, it is continuous.
And the back of the house has the siding also, correct?
Yeah, so, if you have standard siding as opposed to replacing everything, then you may put in trim, break that
Right.
cleaner.
Well, go for a public hearing.
Are there any concerns from our professional team about this project?
No, the question about the impervious area increase was answered.
I did not write a planning review because I felt that the addition was so small, it didn't really have any issues.
And the deck below, what is that going to be? The new deck, is that?
The new deck, it'll, again, wood deck on top of the garage. So, I mean, I don't know exactly what, but they're, positive material or that.
We need to go through the public hearing process.
Well, that's up to the board. If you want to waive the public hearing, you potentially could. You have a resolution ready for AHRB adoption. If that, the board wants for it.
I think that would be a good solution. That'd be a good
John,
solution.
do you have a concern?
Say again?
Do you have a concern if that the board waives? the planning board?
The problem is none of the neighbors can comment.
Right, right
Yeah, I
now,
think-
so
I think we should
it shouldn't be waived.
Okay.
I'm more comfortable letting people, letting the
Yes.
neighbors,
Yeah,
giving
I
neighbors a
would
chance to speak
prefer
up.
to-
Correct.
You, if there are specifics, details, materials that you want for an example, then relative. There is concern about
I'm just a little I drive by the house every day, so I'm just a little concerned about how the integration of new versus old materials are gonna look. That's
Maybe if you want to bring a
one
sample.
one thing that kind of glares out at me. But otherwise, I think it's a nice addition.
So
Oh, for public hearing?
I think that's where we are.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Public hearing.
Public hearing at our next meeting.
That's it.
That's it. I move that we
Thank you.
adjourn. I move that we
Did you start
adjourn.
your house?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll be out of here before you are.
So it's
Close of meeting.
9 o'clock, before 9 o'clock.
No, it's not bad.
So is your house under construction now?
Not bad for the number of things on the agenda.